Hi, I'm Patrick Hoban. For today's podcast, I wanted to talk about someone that you're probably not familiar with. Her name is Wilma Rudolph. And the focus of today's session is about grace and grit in motion. Uh, Wilma has a quote that I love that says, "Triumph can't be had without the struggle," which I totally agree with. She was a truly impressive woman. And again, I'll talk about her achievements soon, but back in the day when polio still was a real problem, she had it and was told she's never going to walk again. And for some people, that will make them a victim. And for some people, that basically inspires them to action, and they become the hero of their story. And that's what I hope to teach a lot in the different programs that I teach with leadership, the different one-on-one coaching I do with people. One of the things we really talk about is being the hero of your story. And for the love of God, trying to help people not to be the victim of their story. And when Wilma was told that she'd never walk again, she decided to be the hero. She decided to defy the expectations, and she did it right from the start. She has the classic story of wearing leg braces and had years of physical therapy. Yay for physical therapy. But what's key is that she wasn't born with talent like most people who eventually become Olympians. She was, however, born with a relentless determination. And I think that is awesome. If more of us had this level of grit, this relentless determination, this ability to not give up, man, the things that we could do, just the different achievements, accomplishments, goals that we could reach, and the key is looking at someone like Wilma helps us to remember that we can do more than we believe. And what was great is that Wilma had a mom whose faith was unwavering in her. There's a quote saying, "My daughter will walk." And what's great, I can tell you from my wife, there are certain moms out there that are mama bears. And when something happens to one of their kids, they get tough, and they will defend, and they will encourage, they will be there like no one else. And I think that was a key for Wilma, is that she had someone in her corner, like her mom, who said, you can, as a doctor, tell me whatever you want. I will help my daughter walk. I will help my daughter to be successful. And what was neat is that Wilma and her mom believed before the rest of the world did. I think that many people who are going to achieve great things, if you're a leader, if you're a person, I hope that you are striving for greatness. I hope that you are looking for ways that you can have impact. And to have impact, you have to believe in yourself first. And let's be clear, she had lots and lots of reasons not to be successful. Wilma Rudolph was born as a black girl in the South, and that was not an easy place to be. She faced racism, segregation, and very, very limited opportunities. What was sad is that she actually had to travel all over the place just to compete in running events. But she and her mom, they were willing to do it because she believed in herself. I think that it's interesting that true leadership for you and for me does start with breaking your idea of limits. We have to believe in ourselves more than anyone else. And what's great is that in 1956, Wilma Rudolph was able to actually kind of taste the first fruits of her labor. It was the Olympics. She was 16. 16, that's crazy. And she had only been out of her leg braces for 4 years and went to the Olympics and won a bronze medal. I mean, that's amazing. The world had told her, "You're not enough." And she didn't believe the world. How great is that? These days, I'm sorry, but we have got to stop listening to social media. We've got to stop listening to, maybe it's our parents, maybe it's teachers, maybe it's coaches who tell us that we're just not good enough. We have to step up and we have to believe in ourselves first. All right. And one of the key is to never settle. You know, what's wonderful? 4 years later. So in 1956, she got the bronze medal. In 60, in Rome, she got gold. And she didn't do it small. She was the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in track and field. I mean, this is a person who came from nothing, who had nothing. And what's awesome, she became an international icon overnight. You know, and what was great is that even after being in those leg braces, she ran with this elegance, you know, with this ferocity. I had my leadership coach one day gave me a picture that I still have right here that I will never get rid of. And it's a picture she took at a safari of a lion. And she told me that I had to have a fierce heart. And I loved that. You know, I put it right outside my office and I looked at it every day. And I think that we need to be strong. We need to be fierce. But I want to do that with heart. I want to do that with grace. I want to do that with care and compassion. And so being tough is great. But being tough and loving, man, that is powerful. So make sure that you learn from someone like Wilma. You know, she was a person who handled fame with humility. It was awesome. She used her platform to inspire other kids, especially young Black girls, not to promote anything, you know. And it's with that kind of leadership, you know, with that kind of poise that you really show people who you are and how you are. She was a person, I think this is awesome, who stood up for her rights. You know, she refused to attend segregated celebrations in her honor. She wouldn't. She insisted that the Tennessee parade for her was integrated. That's awesome, you know. And she didn't just kind of revel in all the glory. She wanted to make sure that she did things the right way. And there's a quiet power in standing firm in your principles. You know, as people, as leaders, we need to do that. You know, and realistically, no one who gets to the level that she gets to doesn't do it without great discipline, you know, great determination. And I think that it's classic that many people want to have the same success that some people have. You know, they want to make all the money, they want to win the races, they want to do whatever. But they're not actually willing to put the work in, you know, to get up early every morning, to do the tough workouts, to make sure to always be pushing. Because someone like Wilma, what's so great is that greatness was not gifted to her. You know, not at all. It was earned. And I think that for me, one of the things is that I want to make sure that I earn my success. I want to help people to earn their success. Because, you know, if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, yay for you. You know, I'm much more of an advocate for the underdog, which is why I love Wilma Rudolph so much, the story of Wilma. You know, if we can all keep focus when we are tired, if we can all be disciplined when we just don't feel like doing it, if we can all have the grit and determination to maintain clarity in our goals, then that is following someone like Wilma Rudolph. And what's key is, again, I have this, you know, in my book. Wilma is in my book. She was a role model for not just Black women and girls. You know, while she was, the face of that group at the time, we all, as leaders, have so much to learn, right? This is a person who broke barriers, you know, with media, with sports, with public opinion, you name it. And we need to make sure that we are willing to fight a fight as leaders, as parents sometimes at home. You know, it's funny, when my kids were younger and I had multiple kids who were teenagers, there started to be fighting, you know, and a lot of yelling in the house. And so I decided to create a new culture. I decided to say, we don't fight in this house. That was the thing. I said, we don't fight in this house. We don't yell in this house. And what was interesting is that at first my, family was like, shut up, Dad, because they were upset with me at the moment. And what is great is that over time, I was able to kind of just keep on saying, we don't fight in this house. We don't yell in this house. How can we talk about stuff and talk it through? And I don't know, maybe 6 months later, there really was no yelling anymore. We still had problems, right? We still had fights. We still had, issues, but we handled them in different ways. And I think that a story like Wilma tells us that we can choose our story, right? We can choose to have the story about ourselves, about different parts of our life that we want to have. We're writing our story every day. And whether it is dealing with, public pressure, whether it's dealing with a kid who's, going through hard times, whether it is a problem employee that you have, doesn't matter. The key is, what are the principles that you have? What are the values that you live by that help you to make sure that you keep running in the right direction? That help you to make sure that your values are bigger than any problem that you deal with. What is wonderful is that Wilma had her mom, and Wilma had this great determination. If we can have people who are in our corners, if we can develop day after day this idea of discipline, this idea of determination, that can help us to achieve any goal that we want. The question is, what are your goals? The question is, are you willing to put the work in every day? And what's neat is that Wilma Rudolph, she crossed the finish line in her life, metaphor, but are we really going to achieve what we need to achieve in our lives? Are you going to look back at your life when you're done and be happy? Are you going to say, yeah, I did everything that I think I could, and I had the impact that I wanted to have? If you ever want to have any help achieving your goals, having impact, just know I'm happy to help out. I do one-on-one coaching with people. I do group coaching with people. I have a 6-session leadership program called Learn, Grow, Lead. It's fantastic. You can always just go to our website and look all that information up. I'd be happy to help you out any way that you want. And remember, if someone like Wilma can achieve what she achieved, you and I can do that too. Thanks and take care.